More than 3 weeks after the killing of senior Austin police officer Jaime Padron, the accused Brandon Daniel remains in jail this morning, waiting to see if District Attorney Rosemary Lindbergh will seek the death penalty against him. It is a very serious decision, so we're going in depth for expert analysis on what that process really is all about. Former Assistant District Attorney, KXAN legal analyst as well, Mindy Montford is here to explain. Thanks again for waking up early with us.
Sure, Sally.
So I wanted to kind of talk about the behind-the-scenes decision when it comes to whether or not Rosemary Lindbergh would seek the death penalty in this case. What can we expect?
It is an incredibly hard decision. Yeah. It's a huge case. All eyes are going to be on that office to see, all right, if there's ever a case we're going to seek the death penalty, which, as we know, in Travis County is very rare,
yeah.
Would it be this one? And the community outrage over this, and you saw the funeral procession, the arrangements, the amount of people who were just moved by all of that in this community. It's going to be really hard to take a look back and say, we're not seeking the death penalty. So I think it's a big decision. She'll, of course, run it through the committee that she always does of her trusted advisors, but at the end of the day, it will be her decision and her decision alone.
Okay, but she looks at a range of things like we talked about. Obviously, she will talk to maybe the officer's family. Is that kind of a given?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then also, is it her decision alone, or does she seek people to help her with it?
Well, there's a committee within the DA's office of people who've been there for years, people who've done death penalty cases, people who may not be so pro-death penalty. I mean, it's not a stacked deck. She definitely has people who have differing views, and then they'll go through all of the evidence. They'll talk with APD thoroughly. They'll have the detectives explain what evidence they have. Then they're going to talk to the family. Now, that's not going to be the end-all, be-all, because there have been cases in the past where the families did not want them to seek the death penalty, but they've gone ahead and done it. So it is a factor, but it is not going to be the deciding factor. They'll look at all of that, plus the cases that they've sought it in the past, see what the jury did on those cases, and then ultimately have a very big discussion. They'll advise Rosemary Lindbergh of what they think should happen. Ultimately, it's going to be her call.
And Mindy, is this kind of a weeks or months process here?
You're not going to have a decision for a while.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to let the investigation go through. They're going to make sure, as we talked about before, that every T is crossed, every I is dotted. They want to know if they seek the death penalty, this is an airtight case.
Okay, and we know that you wear many hats, so I'm going to ask you to put on kind of your defense attorney hat for me right here. And let's talk about the possible defense here. So the call came in that it was an intoxicated person at Walmart. His mother has come out saying, look, my son was taking Xanax, drinking, he was depressed. What about the defense here? Can there be some kind of plea of temporary insanity? Is that even a defense in Texas?
Well, voluntary intoxication, so the fact that you ingested drugs or alcohol on your own volition, is not going to be a defense to your conduct. So they're not going to be able to just come right out and say, yes, we did it, but I was intoxicated or I was on Xanax.
Right.
They'll be able to get into that slightly. Now, once a verdict is returned on guilt or innocence, if it's guilty, that's when the judge would allow that evidence in as sort of a mitigation of conduct. But it is not going to be a defense per se to the conduct. However, they can use it to sort of explain, put it in perspective, try to get some sympathy from the jury and say, look, this is not how this person normally would act. Is he a danger to the community? Well, maybe only when he's on Xanax. I mean, you know, that is something that the defense would probably argue. Plus, he has a criminal history, from what I understand. It's not a lot of violent offenses, more DWI. I think there's a theft. So the defense is going to try to say, look, something went terribly wrong that night. This is not who this person is. In fact, he's an engineer at HP.
Yeah.
Comes from what we see, a pretty good family. They're going to go through his background, his history. All of that's going to come in because they're trying to save that man's life if, in fact, they do seek the death penalty.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating case when it does come to fruition, because, of course, you're going to see the prosecutors, too, saying, look, what about Officer Padron?
Absolutely.
He had a wonderful family,
with
too.
2 kids, little kids, a wife, you know, and he was just doing his job, just going on a routine call.
That's right. All right, Mindy Montford, I appreciate your time waking up early with us. Legal defense attorney, also our legal analyst here for KXAN. Of course, I know I'm going to keep in contact with you when Rosemary does make her decision.
That sounds good.
All right.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.